Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Sally's predicament, Jack's cryptic message, and Mariah Copeland's confession. But will the redhead eventually tell the whole truth? In the meantime, Courtney Hope's character Sally Spectra is faced with a moral conundrum that might have something to do with Peter Bergman's character Jack Abbott receiving a mysterious message. Let's discuss the upcoming events in the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. What Mariah Copeland admitted. First, let's talk about Mariah and the awful secret she is hiding. There are rumors that the tortured redhead may eventually confess. But I can't help but wonder if this is a partial confession or the whole truth. Is this confession addressed to Tessa Porter or Sharon Newman? In any event, viewers are curious as to why Mariah is keeping the incident from others. It is horrific, but it was obviously a trauma response. Sally Spectra's moral conundrum. Fans can anticipate that Sally will encounter an ethical conundrum. Sally is beginning to really doubt the choices made by Billy Abbott. Billy will undoubtedly do what he wants to do anyhow, and he will do it at a speed of 180 degrees. After that, Billy and Sally are taken by surprise when Kane Ashby is the only guest at their celebration. Kane appears to have a proposition, but what is it? Is this related to Peter Bergman's character Jack Abbott receiving a mysterious message? Might this be Sally's message? The patriarch does something cunning while ostensibly defending Kyle to Claire Grace Newman. Victor gives her a hint about his covert agreement with Kyle, but he withholds all information. Ask Kyle, he claims. Naturally, when Claire snaps at Kyle, he is taken by surprise and perplexed. Holden Novak is threatened by Audra Charles. Holden, meanwhile, responds by threatening her. Phyllis Summers is warned by Nick Newman. The man will later tell Sharon a secret. Anticipate another confrontation between Victor and Christian LeBlanc's character, Michael Baldwin, by Friday. Kane, meanwhile, makes a new coalition. Phyllis also assumes command. But will Phyllis save the day or ruin everything? Mariah's confession, Sally's moral dilemma, and Jack's advice. To tell the truth, Mariah Copeland. But will it be all the truth? Meanwhile, Sally Spectra, played by Courtney Hope, finds herself in a moral bind. As you read on, let's talk about what's coming up in the CBS soap drama. Let's start by talking about the most interesting spoiler. It ultimately revolves around Mariah and her secret. It is claimed that she will finally confess. However, being totally honest and admitting can be two different things. I'm interested to see what Mariah will admit to and if it will also provide viewers some clarification. Is Mariah a danger to her family, or did the elderly man set her off? Sally will present her with a moral dilemma. Sally does have the ability to seize control of Abbott Communications if she starts to doubt Billy Abbott's decisions. The redhead is already feeling anxious because of Billy. That will intensify when she shows up at an empty party and surprises everyone with Kane Ashby, played by Billy Flynn. Sally might be able to get some advice from Jack Abbott. Later this week, Jack receives a mysterious note that may have come from Sally. Victor Newman drops a bombshell to Claire Grace Newman. Although Victor seemed to be defending Kyle Abbott, he was actually making things worse. He hinted at that secret arrangement to encourage Claire to interrogate her lover more. Victor is capable, I'll give him that. Holden Novak and Audra Charles exchange threats about her. Audra seems to be the true culprit, since Holden is so sure he will just continue living his life. Nick Newman cautions Phyllis Summers. Nick later shares a secret with Sharon Newman. By Friday, Victor resolves any outstanding issues with Michael Baldwin. Meanwhile, Kane establishes a new alliance. Finally, Phyllis assumes leadership. I'm not sure if Phyllis taking the lead is a good or bad thing. Watch her carefully since things can quickly get out of hand. Sally's predicament is about to become one of the most gripping moral crises the audience has seen in months, and it all connects to Jack's cryptic message and the bombshell confession brewing inside Mariah Copeland. But the central question remains, will Mariah ever tell the whole truth, or will she, like Sally, find herself trapped in half-truths and dangerous omissions? 4 weeks now, Courtney Hope's fiery redhead Sally Spectra has been juggling loyalty, love, and ambition, but the scales are beginning to tip as her conscience wrestles against her survival instincts. Billy Abbott has been steering Abbott Communications into risky waters at full throttle, ignoring every warning and dismissing Sally's concerns with his trademark overconfidence. But now Sally is beginning to wonder if aligning with Billy means selling off every shred of moral clarity she has left. This creeping sense of dread intensifies when she attends what should have been a celebratory event only to discover the shocking twist that Kane Ashby is the sole guest, a man with a hidden agenda and a proposition that reeks of manipulation and veiled threats. Kane's sudden reappearance begs the question, is his offer tied to the very same mysterious message that Jack Abbott receives later in the week, a message so cryptic and unnerving that it could alter not only Jack's decisions but also shake Sally's already fragile sense of control? The way Peter Bergman plays Jack in these moments suggests a man burdened by knowledge too dangerous to share outright, yet unable to ignore, and one cannot help but wonder if the note is Sally's own attempt to distance herself from Billy's recklessness, or perhaps a warning delivered through Jack to someone else entirely. Meanwhile, the other redhead in Genoa City, Mariah Copeland, is battling demons of her own, and her storyline threads together with Sally's in ways that mirror the same themes of truth, confession, and whether silence can protect or destroy. Mariah is carrying a secret so horrific and emotionally damaging that it has clearly warped her responses and kept her at arm's length from those who love her most. The big question is, who is Mariah going to confess to first? Is her admission meant for her wife Tessa Porter, the woman who has stood by her through countless storms, or will Mariah find herself breaking down in front of her mother, Sharon Newman, the one person who understands the psychology of trauma and how silence can eat someone alive? Rumors suggest that Mariah's confession won't be the complete story, leaving viewers to pass through what's fact and what's emotional avoidance, and that ambiguity adds layers of suspense to her tale. Could it be that Mariah is actually protecting someone else by not revealing every detail, or is she protecting herself from reliving the trauma? And is this secret connected to a sinister figure from the past who triggered a deeply buried trauma response? Fans speculate about whether Mariah is a danger to herself and her family or whether the incident was provoked by an older, manipulative man who pushed her to her breaking point. As Sally and Mariah's stories swirl, the Newman-Abbott saga continues to ignite its own fireworks, with Victor Newman dropping one of his carefully calculated bombshells on Claire Grace Newman. Under the guise of defending Kyle Abbott, Victor slyly hints at the existence of a covert arrangement between himself and Kyle, telling Claire to ask Kyle rather than spelling it out. This sets up a landmine in Claire and Kyle's already fragile relationship, as Claire lashes out at Kyle in a fury of betrayal and confusion, leaving Kyle stunned and scrambling for words. Victor, ever the chess master, knows exactly what he's doing, fanning the flames of suspicion and conflict while pretending to protect family unity. At the same time, Holden Novak and Audra Charles escalate their dangerous dance of threats, with Audra pushing Holden into a corner and Holden firing back with promises of retribution that leave both characters teetering on the edge of exposure. This power struggle highlights Audra's ruthless streak, and Holden's sharp, defensive posture only ensures that when one of them finally makes a move, the fallout will be devastating. Elsewhere, Nick Newman steps into the role of reluctant truth-teller, first warning Phyllis Summers about looming dangers, then sharing a closely guarded secret with Sharon, a revelation that could shift alliances and ripple outward into multiple storylines. The week barrels toward its climax with a heated confrontation between Victor and Michael Baldwin, one of those classic face-offs where Christian LeBlanc brings intensity and nuance to Michael's loyalty versus duty conflict, while Eric Braeden unleashes Victor's icy authority in full force. During all of this, Kane Ashby is quietly working to forge a new alliance, a move that could tilt the balance of power in ways no one expects, while Phyllis seizes command of her own narrative, asserting control in a way that might either save her loved ones or plunge them into fresh chaos. Against this backdrop, Sally's moral dilemma deepens. Does she remain tethered to Billy, whose recklessness could sink her, or does she pivot toward Jack, whose cryptic note may contain the very guidance she needs to protect herself? And Mariah, poised at the precipice of confession, must decide if partial truths will protect those she loves or if only full honesty can set her free. The symmetry between these two women's arcs, one wrestling with a crisis of ethics, the other with a crisis of truth, creates a narrative heartbeat that drives the drama forward. As Sally stands at her own crossroads, anxious over Kane's surprise reappearance and Jack's enigmatic warning, Mariah trembles on the verge of unburdening herself, both of them caught in storms that may drown them if they don't find the courage to choose transparency over silence. And yet, in soaps, timing is everything. Sometimes the truth comes out too late, and sometimes the wrong decision made in fear becomes the very trap a character cannot escape. The question haunting every viewer now is not simply whether Sally and Mariah will tell the truth, but whether they can survive the consequences of it, because in Genoa City, secrets are never buried forever, and when they rise, they often take down everyone standing nearby. As the week unfolds in Genoa City, the storylines that seemed loosely connected start to overlap in ways that make it clear that Sally's moral conundrum, Jack's cryptic message, and Mariah's long-awaited confession are part of a much larger tapestry of secrets, betrayals, and shifting allegiances. Sally Spectra, already anxious about Billy Abbott's reckless decision-making, finds herself increasingly isolated when Kane Ashby walks into the picture as the only attendee at what should have been a celebration, flipping the entire atmosphere from joy to dread in an instant. Kane's presence is not a coincidence. He comes armed with a proposition that feels less like an offer and more like a threat dressed up in polite words, and Sally immediately senses that whatever Kane wants is somehow tied to Billy's bold but dangerous maneuvers at Abbott Communications. But Kane's calm, measured tone makes it difficult to pin him down. Is he offering Sally a lifeline away from Billy, or is he laying a trap that will leave her indebted to him in ways she can't afford? Sally's head spins as she weighs the risks, and though her instinct tells her to run, something in Kane's demeanor keeps her listening. And then, almost as if on cue, Jack Abbott receives his mysterious message, a note that could have come from anyone, but which resonates with an urgency that unsettles him. Jack, who has seen decades of family wars, betrayals, and corporate battles, is no stranger to cryptic warnings, but the phrasing of this one feels intensely personal. The handwriting is unfamiliar, yet the words strike him with the weight of truth, and Jack struggles with whether to share it with his family or keep it close until he can unravel its meaning. Could the message be a veiled warning to protect Kyle from Victor Newman's manipulations? Could it be connected to Sally's growing discomfort with Billy's judgment? Or, in a twist few see coming, is Kane Ashby himself the one pulling strings in the shadows, ensuring his re-entry into Genoa City shakes the Abbotts to their core? Whatever the case, Jack's quiet but deliberate reaction sets off ripples. He doesn't lash out, doesn't immediately call a meeting, but those around him notice his unease, and that alone is enough to raise suspicions that something big is brewing. While Sally tries to decode Kane's motives and Jack wrestles with the implications of his note, Mariah Copeland's storyline takes a darker, more emotional turn. For weeks, it has been clear that Mariah is holding something back, that there's a secret gnawing at her soul, but now the weight of it grows too heavy to conceal any longer. Mariah's confession comes in fits and starts, halting words, long pauses, nervous glances at Tessa and Sharon as if daring them to judge her. But what makes this confession so maddening for viewers is that it isn't the whole story. It's fragments, shards of a larger truth that Mariah seems either unwilling or unable to articulate. She admits to something awful, something that happened when she was triggered into a trauma response, but the details remain vague, and her listeners are left piecing together more questions than answers. Is she protecting herself, afraid that saying everything out loud will make it real again? Or is she deliberately withholding to shield someone else from exposure? Sharon, ever the voice of reason, encourages Mariah to be gentle with herself, to allow healing to take precedence over shame. But Sharon also recognizes when someone is hiding behind half-truths. Tessa, meanwhile, struggles with her own conflict. She loves Mariah unconditionally but worries that the omission of key details could come back to haunt them. The air around Mariah's confession is thick with tension, and the ambiguity drives home the reality that telling part of the truth is often just as dangerous as telling none of it. Elsewhere, Victor Newman's subtle but devastating manipulations keep the Abbott-Newman tensions running hot. By planting the idea in Claire Grace Newman's head that Kyle might be hiding something, Victor ensures another round of mistrust and accusations. Claire, already suspicious, goes on the offensive against Kyle, demanding explanations he cannot provide because Victor has deliberately dangled only part of the story. Kyle's confusion and defensiveness only confirm Claire's worst fears, and the rift between them deepens in ways that will be difficult to mend. This is Victor's genius. He rarely delivers the killing blow himself but sets the stage so others destroy their own relationships with his breadcrumbs of half-truths. At the same time, Holden Novak and Audra Charles are locked in their own escalating standoff. Audra, sensing an opportunity, pressures Holden with threats that make it clear she holds cards he doesn't even know he's shown. But Holden, surprisingly, doesn't back down. He fires threats of his own, making it clear that he has no intention of being steamrolled. Their clash is less about the present and more about what's at stake in the future: power, reputation, and the control of secrets that could reshape Genoa City's balance of power. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers is caught in the middle of multiple ticking time bombs. Nick Newman tries to warn her, offering advice that feels more like a plea, but Phyllis's instinct for independence leads her to take command of her own situation. She knows too well that when she plays by others' rules, she often loses, so she positions herself at the center of unfolding chaos, determined to be the one pulling strings instead of dancing on someone else's. Nick, however, doesn't leave it there. His next move is to confide in Sharon, revealing a secret he's been keeping that could connect threads from Sally to Mariah to the Newman family's ongoing battles. Sharon, calm but concerned, processes Nick's revelation, recognizing its potential to inflame already fragile situations. And then comes Friday, the week's climax, when Victor and Michael Baldwin face off in a tense confrontation that pits loyalty against strategy. Michael has often walked the fine line between serving Victor's interests and standing up to him, but this showdown feels different, more personal, more consequential, as if both men know the outcome will reverberate through the rest of Genoa City. Their exchange is sharp, layered with decades of history, and by the end of it, viewers are left stunned at the possibility that even Victor's most loyal allies might no longer be willing to follow him blindly. Against all this chaos, Kane Ashby quietly builds a new alliance, slipping under the radar in ways that only make him more dangerous. His methodical moves stand in stark contrast to Billy Abbott's impulsiveness, highlighting just how vulnerable Billy has made Sally by charging ahead without thinking of consequences. As Phyllis asserts her control, Kane maneuvers behind the scenes, and Victor plays puppet master. Sally's anxiety grows into outright fear. She realizes she may have to make a choice between standing beside Billy in his reckless ventures or seeking refuge under Jack's guidance, which would mean confessing to him about Kane's approach and the doubts she's harbored for weeks. But Sally knows that every move she makes is being watched, that even Jack, fatherly as he is, may not be able to save her if she steps too far into dangerous territory. For Mariah, the decision is no less heavy. She must decide whether to go back to her loved ones and complete her confession, ripping the bandage off fully, or risk letting the half-truth fester until it explodes at the worst possible moment. Her storyline mirrors Sally's in that both women are standing on thresholds, torn between silence and transparency, between protection and destruction. And this is the brilliance of the current arc. The way the show threads together moral dilemmas, cryptic warnings, and dangerous half-confessions into a single fabric of suspense. Sally's moral compass is being tested against her ambition. Jack's cryptic message threatens to unravel everything the Abbotts think they know about their alliances. Mariah's confession highlights the cost of trauma and the peril of silence. Victor's manipulations continue to destabilize relationships, while Audra and Holden's threats escalate into a dangerous chess match. Nick's warnings to Phyllis and secrets shared with Sharon add another layer of intrigue. Kane builds new alliances in the shadows. And Phyllis, stepping into leadership, risks toppling everything if her control slips. The week builds toward a crescendo of confrontations, revelations, and moral reckonings, leaving fans to wonder not just what happens next but who will be left standing when the truth, whole or partial, finally comes to light. Because if one thing is certain in Genoa City, it's that the truth never stays buried forever, and when it erupts, it takes casualties. The storm clouds over Genoa City refuse to clear, and if anything, the intertwining stories of Sally, Jack, and Mariah gather even more weight as the week rolls into its final, ominous beats. Sally Spectra, who has always been a survivor, begins to realize that surviving in this particular chapter may not come without devastating costs. With Billy Abbott barreling forward at reckless speed, Sally feels that same old gnawing pit in her stomach, the sensation of history repeating itself, the awareness that she has allowed herself to be swept up in a man's chaos before, and it nearly destroyed her. The temptation to break free grows stronger when she recalls Jack Abbott's cryptic message, and though she still doesn't know if it was meant directly for her, the words ring in her ears like a warning she cannot hear. Jack, ever the protector and patriarch, seems poised to step in when the moment demands it, But even he cannot shield Sally completely if she chooses poorly. In contrast, Kane Ashby's presence grows darker by the day. What began as a seemingly straightforward proposition now feels like a slow tightening of chains around Sally's ankles, and the fact that Billy either cannot or will not recognize the danger only sharpens Sally's sense of isolation. Meanwhile, Mariah Copeland continues to wrestle with her half-confession. The weight of unspoken details presses down on her until she almost trembles under it, but her resolve falters at the idea of saying everything out loud. Sharon, with her intuition honed by years of weathering storms of her own, senses that Mariah is still hiding more than she admits, but she also knows that pushing too hard could make Mariah retreat entirely. Tessa, equally torn, wonders if loving Mariah means accepting silence or if true love demands complete truth, no matter how ugly. The irony is almost poetic. Sally's dilemma is whether to admit too much and jeopardize her position, while Mariah's is whether she can survive admitting everything she's buried. Both women, though worlds apart in circumstance, are united by their battles with honesty and consequence. On the Newman front, Victor's strategic brilliance continues to wreak havoc. Claire Grace Newman and Kyle Abbott remain fractured by mistrust, their relationship teetering dangerously close to collapse.